Ted Prevents is right. Get your dimes tonight. Ted Prevents is right. He works all through the night to bring the news to light. Get the coin of the realm. Prime time to get your dimes. Harness your purchasing power. If you know, you know. So get your dimes tonight, cause Ted Prevents is right.
Well, welcome there, YouTube. We got a whole lot of news we want to share with you guys today. COVID surge prompts Chinese schools to reportedly isolate students on campus, implementing strict containment measures as infections rise. President Trump's Justice Department is now investigating pardons Joe Biden issued in his final days in office, including those granted to family members and death row inmates. President Trump fires 3 top pro-Israel officials, Marv Sharan, Eric Traeger, and Morgan Outages, amid rift with Netanyahu reportedly over their pro-Israeli views. Raven Harrison, a U.S. House candidate from Florida, claims to have uncovered evidence suggesting Joe Biden's face is a synthetic mask controlled by a robotic clone. The House Freedom Caucus is reportedly ready to codify a $9.4 billion in DOGE spending cuts into law. Senators Lindsey Graham and Richard Blumenthal used combined $1 million in taxpayer money for a trip to Ukraine. 2 Chinese nationals have been charged with allegedly smuggling farcium uranium into the U.S., a fungus identified in scientific literature as potential agro-terrorism weapon. The dollar may fall another 9% by this time next year as the U.S. economy slows and the Federal Reserve cuts rates, Morgan Stanley said. European countries will be among the biggest beneficiaries. Ukrainian drones hit several Russian strategic airfields far away as Serbia, while Russia launched some of its longest missiles and drone attacks. The 2 sides are set to send delegations to Turkey for peace talks today. UK will announce $15 billion euro spending for its warhead program and the new attack submarines to bolster warfighting readiness. Britain also plans to cut several new plans to build several new munitions factories. Poland's nationalist candidate Karol Nawacki won the presidential election, defeating the centrist mayor of Warsaw in a blow to the country's pre-EU government. Treasury Chief Scott Bessent told the CBS that the U.S. will not default on debt without saying when the Treasury went out of cash. However, he mentioned very confidently that Donald Trump and Xi Jinping will iron out the differences in a call very soon. Well, we have very interesting oratory for you here this morning. I'm thrilled to be with you, and as we dive into this critical development in the world of precious metals, late breaking. It's not just another piece of market news, but one that could have far-reaching and will have far-reaching implications on silver prices and the supply chains. We're talking about a major shift in how silver and other commodities are traded, specifically the Shanghai Futures Exchange, SFHE, and that is, we abbreviated or pronounce it SHIF, new requirement for physical settlement within 3 business days. Now, before we dive into what is changing, it would first review the broader landscape. We've been discussing this for some time about how global precious metals market is under strain, whether it's the volatility of the financial markets, the actions of the central banks, or disruptions in the supply chain. Silver has been facing increased demand with significant upward pressure on its price. But now the SHIF's decision to require physical settlement within 3 days of silver contracts, things are getting more interesting. Let's break this down. For what does physical settlement within 3 days really mean? I'm going to show you. I've got the vibe board up here. We're going to talk about the U.S. debt clock. For years, commodities markets such as COMEX, Commodities Exchange Incorporated, and the LBMA, the London Bullion and Market Association, has facilitated futures contracts that often settle in cash rather than physical delivery. This means that many of the trades you see on these exchanges don't require the actual transfer of metal. Instead, they are resolved with cash settlements at the end of the contract period. However, the SHIF has introduced a shift. A little play on words there, huh? Like that? An explicit requirement that futures contracts for silver and other commodities settle in physical metal within 3 trading days. This means that when buyers and sellers execute contracts on the SHIF, they will need to arrange for the actual delivery of the metal. I'm going to show you why that's so important. Now just settle and not just settle with a financial exchange. There's no longer room for the typical paper trading without corresponding physical delivery. So how does this compare to the COMEX and the LBMA? It's a good question, Ted. The key point here is that the stark differences in how the SHIF operates versus the COMEX and the LBMA. As we know, both the COMEX and the LBMA are pivotal players in the global silver market. They do not have the same physical settlement requirement. COMEX, for example, has been known to allow a substantial amount of futures contracts to be settled in cash with no actual physical metal being delivered. Another trick they play is we'll give you the X number of more contracts if you simply roll them over. So no contract, no physical silver is really being expressed there as it should be. The COMEX does have a delivery mechanism for silver, but it's widely known that a large percentage of contracts are rolled over and not physically settled because they're creating the currency on a keyboard can offer you, unlimited amounts of money or an unlimited amount of contracts to continue to keep you in the game. So the LBMA certainly facilitates the trading of silver, including London's over-the-counter market, where much of the activity is paper trading, where contracts are cash settled or rolled over rather than physically delivered. So what does this mean for the price of silver? I'm going to show you. When a major exchange like the Shanghai Futures Exchange requires physical settlement, it's a clear signal to the market the price of silver is now more directly tied to physical availability. Unlike paper trading, where the supply of silver can be somewhat abstracted from actual physical metal, the new rule places much tighter focus on the actual metal itself. Do you remember our discussions on backwardation? It's happening now. This will lead to higher volatility in silver pricing, especially as investors and speculators start to recognize the importance of physical inventory. With the Shanghai Futures Exchange now demanding that contracts be settled with real metal, the supply chain for silver will be under even more scrutiny. If there are shortages or delays in the supply of silver, it could significantly impact prices. We already have been notified of these delays. In theory, this could put upward pressure on the silver prices because buyers can no longer rely on the assumption that they can roll over contracts or settle them with cash. Instead, there will be an increased demand for actual silver to meet delivery requirements, further tightening the already strained market. Now let's talk about how this will affect the supply of physical silver. The reality is that the supply of physical silver has been under pressure for years, from mining disruptions to delays in production and logistics to the ongoing struggles in refining and minting. There have been constant issues and consistent issues with getting enough metal into the hands of those who need it, actually want delivery of the physical. With the Shanghai Futures Exchange now demanding that physical silver be delivered quickly, these logistical hurdles must become even more critical. Supply chain bottlenecks could easily become more pronounced. For example, refiners and mints may be unable to quickly produce the necessary quantity of silver in time to meet settlement demands. Can't sell what you don't have, right? But there are. This could lead to shortages of physical silver, which might exacerbate price increases. Moreover, the shift could increase the competition for silver, compressing the silver to gold ratio. Do you see one-to-one happening? I do. As more investors realize that physical silver is becoming harder to obtain, they may rush to secure their own metal. This could result in the rush to physical market, driving premiums up significantly. $1 over spot for dimes, that's going to be a blip in the rearview mirror. The paper market or futures market will no longer be able to obscure the true supply-demand dynamics. And the domino effect on the global markets, let's examine it. It's important to note that the influence of the Shanghai Futures Exchange extends beyond China. The Shanghai Futures Exchange is the world's largest commodity exchange by volume, and its policies have a ripple effect on global markets. As the shift tightens its physical delivery requirements, the global silver market will likely adjust in response, particularly when combined with existing pressures from the COMEX and LBMA, which continue to price silver as though it would blip on a computer screen like a paper short. We could see increased divergence between the price of silver in the futures markets and the physical price of silver. Absolutely. That's what's called backwardation. We're seeing that now. The gap between the futures market, where the contract is often rolled over or cash settled, and the physical market, which is now directly tied to delivery, could grow even wider, further distorting the market and leading to more volatility. So in conclusion, the Shanghai Futures Exchange new rule requiring physical settlement within 3 days, trading days, is a game changer. It will bring the silver market even closer to the reality of physical metal availability, causing increased volatility in silver prices and possibly exacerbating supply shortages. While the COMEX and LBMA continue their more traditional methods of settlement, the Shanghai Futures Exchange is setting the stage for a real-world market where silver's true value is more tightly tied to its availability as a tangible and physical asset. This shift is one that could reshape the silver market and the global economy in profound ways, and it will. And it will be important for all of us to keep a close eye on how these changes play out in the months and years ahead. Become a TED head. We'll walk this path together. Thank you for tuning in today. Be sure to stay tuned and stay informed. Keep up with the changes because they know we're going to affect all of us. What I'd like to do now is explain to you and show you just a little bit about the background that I have so you know who's talking to you. A lot of new people out there. I retired with a very nice career with ING. I have my my ham radio license. These are some of the different certifications that I have or had. Okay, this is my education. This is my real name on my certificates. I attended James Madison when it was first started out at Madison College. This is a license plate from a new friend that I made a little while ago. He's from New Zealand. And these are some other awards and commendations. I don't know if you can see all that stuff over there, but a little closer, because there is one thing over here I wanted to show you. This is our table of defunct currency notes, which is why we're encouraging our friends not to invest in paper script. These paper notes are supposed to be still worth something. Well, if they're worth something, why do I have them on my table, especially that big, nice stack there, huh?
Oh, yeah.
So let's take a look at what we're talking about on the vibe board. Do you see where it says paper to silver ratio now? 365.43. That's the number of naked paper shorts that have been sold for each ounce of silver. If you do the math like I have, you're over $12,000 per ounce. Do you see this? Now, they've done the same thing to gold as well, but not anywhere near to the extent that they've done to silver, which is why this is such great news for us that are holding real metal, because it's going to get very, very tight very soon. We'll go over other aspects of the vibe board. Here's some other accommodations that I have, just so you know who's talking to you. Okay, I'm a real guy, and I spent a career of 27 years with ING as a certified financial planner and certified estate planner. So without any further ado, thanks for joining in with us. I think we're going to have a whole lot of fun. Come on over to Rumble and join us over there. The rest of the program's there. We can't say all that we want to say on this channel here on Rumble, excuse me, on YouTube. Come on over where the rest of the truth is going to be laid out in a nice fashion. See you soon. Rumble guys, hold still.